Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Oh. So good afternoon, everyone. So once again, I would like to welcome you all to the last session of the 12th edition of the India Coal Summit. This session, we will discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the industry. And we have a list of very eminent panelists. To start with, Mr. P.K. Singh Rathore, the Principal General Secretary of All India Association of Coal Executives, Mr. Joydeep Banerjee, Director of United Exploration Private Limited, and Mr. Amit Umarani, Manager, Industry Process Consultant from Dassault Systems. Mr. P.K. Singh Rathore will be the moderator of this session. I would request Mr. Rathore to kindly start the session. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. I am P.K. Singh Rathore. Welcome you all panelists as well as attendees attending this 12th India Coal Summit. Well, in last 2 days, we have listened all the panelists. Also, question and answer session was held. And the panelists could satisfy the delegates and their questions were well answered. So this is the last session, concluding session of second day, and the topic is impact of COVID on industry. So you well know after this COVID entered India and locked from March 24 lockdown. So our industry all the industries have been impacted badly. Be it hotel industry, aviation, auto, textile, financial institutions, pharmaceutical, electronics, logistics, retail, mining, every industry and sectors has been impacted. And worldwide, if you see Alta Zinc shut down production in Italy, Rio Tinto suspended non-essential work in Peru, Mongolia, and Anglo-American stopped its working in Peru. So all these have impacted us very well, very largely, and its impact cannot be assessed in a day or two. And as far as this COVID impact is concerned, no one is untouched. I will start from the impact on mining, because I come from mining industry, coal mining. So this mining industry has been impacted very badly, particularly coal industry, and the production has gone down. Last year production was around 730 million ton, and could import at least 230 to 235 million ton. And this was due to this effect. People and workers were due to lockdown, they could not come to duty, and production target could not be fulfilled. So seeing the impact of this lockdown and this COVID, now the time has come when we have to go for automation. And automation is very much needed in mining industry, because mining industry is basically labor-oriented industry where many workers are required to work at the same place. So we have to think for automation. Aviation industry has been impacted much. International travel has been stopped. All the airlines have been suspended. It has suspended its operation like that. So hospitality industry, entertainment, everyone has been impacted. And we should go to mining. When we talk of mining industry, post-COVID contribution, if we think, we know that mining industry is contributing about 14.4% as per Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation to the total industry. And employment is around, regular employment is 5 lakhs and more. And indirect employment, we can think of, it will be manifold. So due to this impact, we have to recover the economy, and for recovering this economy, the government has to come forward, the sector, mining sector and mining giants have to come forward to help boost the economy. And for mining reform is needed. For mining reform, government has done many things. Through Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, rupees 50,000 crore has been given to mining for infrastructure development, for evacuation of minerals like that. And commercial mining has also been open for general or non-government company to start mining activity and sell coal. So what we see after this impact, around 90,000 people have died, more than 50 lakhs people have been impacted. So economy is completely not Indian economy, but world economy has been hit very hard. And this, how we will recover? For recovery, growth has to be maintained. But one good thing which we have noticed that after this lockdown, worldwide lockdown, the pollution level has gone down. Worldwide report is there, and the emission has stopped. Aviation industry, which contributes around 3% of this pollution load, and transportation, that 23 or 24% of greenhouse gases they emit, they have been lessened. So the environment has somewhat cleaned, but still the Paris conference target is not, we are not going to achieve. Many more things we have to do. So whenever we talk of any of industry, none of the industry is going well. And as for your knowledge, as I report, I have seen auto industry has been badly impacted. And April sale, there was report that in April 2020 there was no sale, either commercial vehicle or private vehicle. So if there is no sale, so the employment generation, there will be no employment. Employment will be curtailed. So manufacturing to supply to the consumer or the end user, many people are involved. As due to lockdown, the supply chain was disturbed. Trucks remained on the road, out of road for months together. And so if we want to survive the economies, we want to go ahead with the previous rate, many more things we have to do. And for that for recovery of economy, government is doing well. Government has brought many reforms, particularly in the mining sector. It has given in the last, up from March to September, it has liberalized the entry norm. 50 blocks, coal blocks have to be allocated auction. And also the government has allowed incentive for coal to gas or coal to liquid projects. Recently, global tender has been invited, where in Dankuni Coal Complex of Coal India Limited, which is nearer to Havra, the coal to methanol plant is to be started, and annual output will be about 6.5 million ton per annum, and the coal requirement will be 1.5 million ton. So this government has done. Government is also rationalizing stamp duty payable at the time of award of mining lease. It is also going for auction of CBM, coal bed methane, and many more government is doing. But for this recovery is a must, and this coal summit, India Coal Summit, all of the speakers, right from P.S. Bhattacharya Sahab, who was once upon a time chairman of Coal India, he was very much susceptible that as of now, coal production is 729 million or 730 million ton, and we have to reach to 1100 million ton. It is a big challenge to us. And for meeting this import, which is of the 230 or 240 million ton per annum, for stopping that input, we have to increase our production. But suppose after auction, commercial mining starts, and this coal production supply is maintained. But as we know, renewable energy, wind and solar energy, they are taking share of energy sector. 55% is from thermal power or contributed by coal and others energy sector. So we will be very much, we are apprehensive that this coal requirement will be there or not. Coal India is has set its target of 7 to 10 million ton of coal this financial year 2021. But there was paper report that it will be curtailing its target and it will be making 670 or 680 million ton. So unless until demand, power demand picks up, power demand is not picking up because still the restaurants, malls, multiplexes, and many have not been opened till now. So they are major consumer, power consumer. So unless until full economic recovery is there, coal production will be, I think, not as per expectation, and there is no demand at all. So with this, I want to add that Government of India, particularly for mining industry and coal industry, Government of India has done many changes. It has made some improvement in MMDR 1957 Act, in which coal mines was to be operated through center government company like Coal India. It also Coal India Regulation of Transfer and Validation Act 2000 was there, when the transfer right of land right transfer was to be done to the private parties to operate. And now the end use captive power clause has been removed, and now the people or the parties have been invited, or they are open to commercial mining. If they produce coal, they can sell coal in the market. And this will increase transparency, this will increase ease of doing business. Also, the mine planning approval period has been reduced from 90 days to 30 days. So global competitor will call Rio Tinto and world mining giants will come. They will come with high-end technology, where this COVID impact will be lessened, because the mine can be operated from remote place. So automation will be there. As you know, one gold mine is there in Mali, where 100% automation, gold mining is done with 100% automation, and employees working at remote place, they are controlling the haul trucks, drill machines, shovels, like that. So if world giant mining giants come to India for this commercial mining by making partnership with Indian firms, the productivity will improve, the production will improve, and ultimately the import cost, which is around 1,58,000 lakhs, which goes on for importing coal. So that we can retain, and indigenous coal will be produced. So with this, so I have discussed all issues of impact on industry. So mining industry, steel industry, be it entertainment industry, textile industry, every industry has been impacted. And for economic recovery, government is doing well, and I appreciate the government efforts in bringing some changes. Also, labor legislation code, some acts have been repealed, and new acts have come, where the industry can run well with full support to the producers or the company which come into this business. So with this objective, as I told earlier, objective of this reform is transparency, ease of doing business, and natural resource development in the right way, in scientific way. And this will also increase competition against monopoly. High-end technology will be used, productivity will increase. But as productivity increases, the employment problem will be there, because earlier we used to, in coal industry, we used to have a 35-ton dumper or 5 cubic meter shovel, where and we used to carry 8 to 10 cubic meter of overburden. Now we are using in India 240-ton dumper and 2 cubic meter shovel. So all these combinations will reduce the requirement of manpower. So we have also to think that if the productivity increases, those who are employed and those who are able to be employed in mining industry, they must get employment in other sector, logistics sector, supply chain, and maintenance like that. So with all this, I think I've covered most of the topics, and although many more things can be said over this impact of COVID, but COVID is deadly disease and impacting much. And in that connection, I want to add Coal India. It has
Mr.
done
Rathor, one thing.
tremendous work here. It has done
Mr. Rathor?
in full confidence with the government, as per directive of government, distributed sanitizer, distributed mask among employees and general people in coal fields, and also provided timely support to the employee as well as retired employees.
Mr. Rathor, Mr. Rathor, excuse me.
I want to tell.
Yeah, I'm
So
Ankita.
Coal India provided immediate approval for treatment of COVID in Faridabad Hospital and Hyderabad Hospital. So all this Coal India is doing very sympathetically for its employee and retired employee, and it has made its place in mining, and people are very much hopeful that it will be doing good for the society also. It is employing, it is giving employment, direct as well as indirect employment. So with these words, I conclude that COVID has impacted very much, and for recovery of the economy, government support is needed, as well as this private participation is also there. So with these words, I invite Joydeep Banerjee, who is Director of United Exploration Private Limited, to deliver his speech. Mr. Joydeep, are you listening? Joydeep Banerjee?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Ankita, I need to share my screen.
Yeah. Devu brother, please make him the presenter, Mr. Joydeep.
Yeah, I'm doing just that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Share your screen, sir.
I think it's visible.
Yes, sir. Very much.
Yes, it is visible now. You can start, Mr. Banerjee.
Good afternoon, Dr. Saab and other panelists. Good afternoon. Hard time is ongoing, and we all are aware about the mysterious virus which entered into our life in around your last January, February, and then from March onward, we are in the situation in the whole country. Earlier, in the initial days, we used to we were very curious about the virus. We just sitting in front of news channels and the TV screens, and nowadays it is acquainted. But however, the scenario has not been changed. So far, it is affecting nothing that not the industries, not the economy, day-to-day life, and everybody is in a very panicky situation. so far it has already affected around across the globe around 188 and almost more than 1 million of deaths. So it is created already a global crisis, and the more problematic, what is the thing that we are, the future is invisible, then where is the aim of this? So it is affected already largely, not only that the GDP growth, if we see from FY16, so already a downward movement was continuing, and we don't know what will happen of this because this has definitely a prolonged effect. Due to shutdown of certain industries, due to lockdown situation, the trans movement across the globe, and interstate movements, and thus most of the whole in the country is now suffering that once we were very much curious and were effective that the laborers and the migrant workers has to be bring back to their state. Now the industries are suffering even for the laborers and the daily workers. So the trend shows, and whatever the facts and figures, so the GDP growth is in its worst condition in the last 10 years or so. The impact regime has a mixed in the industry. It is not that everybody, all the sectors have been impacted or affected in a negative way. There are few areas where the impact is on the positive side, also, particularly the healthcare and the insurance lines and the life and wealth health insurances. But other side, the worst hit affected, top affected, if we affect the industry, like if we see, is the airlines and the aviation industries, is the hotel and the hospital industries, automation and part equipment, and oil and gas drilling in the mining industries, and the laser facilities as well. The tourism industries also have a large effect on that. As far as Indian economy is concerned, the mining sector is the key contributor in the Indian economy. If you see the total about the mining economy, whatever the contribution, so it comes from the 56% of our mining contribution comes from the major minerals, and around 44% comes from the minor minerals. If we consider about the 70,000 crores of your revenue from these major minerals, so most of the things are coming from the steel industry, and the others from the cement industry, and the steel industries associated minerals with chromite, manganese, and the aluminum sectors also having a contribution. All about the minor minerals, the construction industry itself requires a large matter of aggregates and the sands and the other minor minerals as well, which gives the contribution to the 44% of the total mining economics. If we talk about any of the state-wise contribution in the mineral products, so it comes around the Odisha, Rajasthan, AP, Chhattisgarh, remaining states, 33.9. So Odisha, Rajasthan, so they are giving around, Odisha is giving around 23.66% of the total economy, your revenue of the whole country, and Karnataka is around 8.37, and Rajasthan is giving around 17.27. So bulk of the mineral production, if we see that those are confined within these 5 states, which are contributing largely in the Indian economy. Now, the scenario changes if we take about how this COVID situation has affected. So since March, the data, if we see, the Odisha, the ore production has come down by, if the overall production has been come down by 60%, and the transportation by 50%, and NCL offtake, which is the major coal contributor in India, is at 6% of the drop down. In Chhattisgarh, there is a transportation drop down of 10%, and NCL offtake is about 20%. In AP, limestone, manganese, barytes, the the mineral production has been stopped. In Karnataka, NMDC sale has been reduced by 50%. And in Rajasthan, most of the mineral production has been stopped in the first 3 months of this lockdown situation. So slowly the revival is ongoing, and production is started in few of the states. So these are the figures in terms of rupees crores that has been anticipated in the top 5 states, but that how it is affecting, and it will be the dropping figures is the projected one. So in terms of royalty, in terms of DMF, in your GST and corporate taxes, so all things are coming in a huge amount of exchequer loss in this financial year, where anticipated loss is which can be amounting can be done, and the projection will be done in the next December. Hope we will be in a position to forecast the things, but so far the losses are uncountable. The loss on account of coal offtake, if we take that the central and the state exchequers, so the loss is about in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, MP, Telangana, all of the sudden that the coal exchequers are already suffering a lot. In the recent coal commercialization in the first stretch has happened, and it has closed just 2 days back. 29th. If we see about the distribution in the bidders, so there is a mixed reaction even within this coal auction state as well, and definitely there is a repercussion of this COVID-19 situation. There are 2 things which has affected a lot amongst the bidders and the potential bidders, and if we see that the bidders with end users or having that for the captive users, we did around 35%, whereas 65% are almost without the end users, or they are meant for the commercial aspects of the whole lot. And the mine-wise, it's again the attractive proposals is bidded for these open cast propositions, and UG proposals are comparatively much less, almost 1/3, more than 1/3 of the things. And bid also the submission of the bid suggests that the potential investors are more prone towards the fully explored blocks rather than the partially explored blocks. So the thing is that if people are interested to have a immediate product line in their hand, and accordingly the bid has been submitted. Stunningly, if we give the figures, these are the figures for the projected with the number of bids submitted. However, it is not very much. It is in a pipeline that out of 38 coal blocks, only 23 coal blocks are being auctioned, and these are the state-wise bid submission details, which states that the Maharashtra has a 100% bid submission. All the blocks have been given as order. In Chhattisgarh, it is 28.57, but somehow this is affected by the all of a sudden your delisting of another 5 coal blocks which have been listed earlier, and the 3 coal blocks added in a much later phase. So it has a mixed effect, and in the Chhattisgarh only 28.57 of the total blocks has been bidded. In Odisha, it's around 50-50 situation. In Jharkhand, about 66%. And MP is almost 70 plus 70% success rate for bidding. But altogether, if we see that out of total 38 blocks, 23 blocks are bidded, the successful participation, and 15 coal blocks there is no bid submission, or maybe 1 bid is submitted, but that cannot be bidded in a successful manner. So this has definitely a mixed reaction in the market with the coal commercialization as well. So government is trying their hard place in this situation to come up from this your COVID situation. To they have given a lot of reform strategy has been taken. The coal commercialization has been happened. They have already declared that with the primary focus in Atmanirbhar and the self-reliant India, and lot of tax rebates and for the domestics and the other also the for the home loans and everything, the moratorium period. So lot of focus are giving to bring back the new normal situation. However, the effects of this COVID situation are not known, and it's an invisible thing how it's happening. Initially, if we see in the industry was suffering from the leverage, and in the other hand, the realization and the demand has been dropped down like anything. The steel industry has been hit because of their shutdown many of the plants, and because of the shutdown of the major plants, other part, the requirement of the parts and the construction industry is also in the stalemate situation. So the demand of cement and the steel industry is also a lot of suffering. There is a drop down of the bauxite mines as well because of the close down, as well as the alumina plants and the smelter plants are also in a shutdown, or maybe they're running with the half of the efficiency levels. So these all are the effects so far we have seen, and we are envisaging that there will be a long-term effect which is not visible with time within this period, but definitely there is a surge, and this surge, where it will hit and where it will be closed down, is a big question mark to the country, not in the economic perspective, but from the safety and the health and the other aspects as well. That how the society will run, how the country will run, how the economic growth will run. So these all are a big question mark nowadays. Not much more data are available as on date to focus more in this situation, but we keep on monitoring the situations, and we are seeing that it's visible that there is a drop down situation. So people are scared of the.
Be fast, please. Mr. Banerjee, be fast.
So this is the last slide, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is within the 6 months time period, you have almost crossed about 6 months time period in this COVID situation. Employment has hit badly, and definitely we have seen that the reaction in the market and the retrenchment is happening, and many of it because of the lockdown situation, people are not coming to the offices on regular basis, so definitely the productivity on a different sectors has been affected badly. So we keep on monitoring the situation, that how it is happening, and government is also focused to reform the strategy. They are taking care of the things, and hope that the things will be coming into the situation where the survival of the industry, survival of the economy and economic growth can be reformed, and we take care of we can go back to our normal situation very soon. So that's all from me. Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. You have covered very nicely impact of COVID, state-wise contribution, and the loss due to coal offtake, commercial bidding like that. Thank you very much. Now I invite Amit Umrani, Manager, Industry Process Consultant, Dassault. Mr. Umrani, are you listening?
Yes, sir, very much. Good afternoon to everyone.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. Can I be made the presenter here?
Debabrata, please make Mr. Amit as a presenter. He want to share the PPT.
Yeah, while this is set up, I wish all the participants and the panelists on this call, you and your family are doing safe and you are taking good care of yourself. So I hope we all are in a good space at this point of time and you are taking care of yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, Debabrata, are you there? Hello, Debabrata? Just a minute, Mr.
Sure.
Amit.
Yeah, I'll anyways start off with a quick introduction so that I set the context. So a very good afternoon to everyone. I'm Amit Umrani. I'm part of Dassault Systems here in India. And the reason why I'm here is to talk about the purpose of a very important subject, which which the mining industry we need to look at it, right? Now, the panelists, Mr. Rathore sir and Mr. Joydeep Banerjee sir, have put in a very nice context and a background of the current situation, like where we are, how is it impacting us, so on and so forth, right? There are some hard-hitting numbers that we are looking at in terms of impact, not just on the mining industry, the coal industry, but the country economy at large, right? So what I would want to do is to take this as an opportunity to, as they call it, clean up your house, right? So I would like to take this opportunity to talk about what we can do, right, in one of the aspects of the industry as to how we can improve our operation. We can look at being better so that when things are improving in the near term, we are able to, usher in a new era of operations in the mining sector, right? So that is what I would like to quickly share with you all a perspective of how we would want to achieve it, and how do we go about planning these things out, right? So that will be my let's say context of the next 10 minutes of my presentation.
Mr. Amit, I'm trying to reach. I don't know. Okay, Debu is making you the presentation. Just a minute.
Sure. Okay, I think I have got it.
You can now share the content.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this visible to everyone?
Yeah, it's visible.
All right. So again, as I begin, I'm going to talk about quickly 4 points: the industry trends, what is mine operations management. I mean, what is the context that I'm bringing in, or we are bringing in, and how do we want to achieve it? Some pointers around it, and what is the value proposition of getting into this area, right? So quickly, of course, the challenges are there. They have been there with COVID. They have been made worse. But then, being optimistic, definitely we believe things will improve, right? So when good times are going to come in, but these challenges probably will stay around, like commodity prices. How do we make sure the mining is safe? How do we make sure it's sustainable? How do we make sure the quality output? How do we make sure that the supply chain is better utilized? We have effective utilization of all our resources, so on and so forth, right? So those challenges pre-COVID, during COVID, and even post-COVID are going to stay. So how do we kind of come out of this situation, right? So that's where I'm going to take this discussion through. So again, a quick representation of what are the challenges across the mining value chain, right from the mine to the customers. There are multiple challenges that we face, right from backload that can cause stockpile balance issues, our inability to get detailed view of what's happening. There are disparate data sources. There's a lot of complexity involved in reconciling them. We are not very sure whatever was planned, whether that got executed. And so primarily we are dealing with poor limited visibility, which is devoting us from opportunities for improvements, right? Why are we in this situation, right? So we are talking about a heterogeneous mix of multiple systems and processes which are not really aligned or which are not synchronized, right? We are looking at time being spent on preparing data, creating data. We are struggling our way through variances, managing the variances, and we are talking about a lot of complexity of information, which is inherent to the way the industry has grown over the centuries, right? So what is the solution for this, right? One of the solutions, and Mr. Rathore really nicely pointed towards this, is doing it through the automation way, right? And that's what I'm going to focus is how do we do this mine operations management, right? We are talking about unifying coverage across the entire mining value chain, right from production data management to variance analysis to operational control, and ensuring that the assets are being utilized, utilized, and the maintenance upkeep is happening to the best possible extent, right? Uh, Now, if we look at how does it impact and how it enables our business, right? So what we are saying is we are able to manage production activities right from planning to transportation to processing, all the processes involved by centralizing and validating the data, right? We are also talking about performing accurate material synchronization and variance analysis across the operations by identifying the clear areas of deviation, right? Uh, we are also talking about increasing the operational visibility and workers' productivity by managing operational performances through real-time data monitoring, right? Uh, Very important is to manage the inventory and the asset performance by understanding their utilization, looking at predicting the remaining useful life of our assets, ensuring that the stockpiles are utilized properly, the grades are segregated properly, right? Last but not the least, quick action to non-conformances, right? It's very important that we react either in a proactive manner or at least in a very quick manner to any non-conformances that we see on the field by having the entire traceability information right from the exploration to the customer dispatches, right? Now, how do we want to achieve this, right? Let's look at it very quickly. We are talking about integrating the landscape through a mine operations management system, right? Where we are talking about integrating with all the legacy applications, the ERPs, the mine schedulings, the geology planning systems, the optimization systems. We talk about electronic data capture from your labs, your fleet management systems, so on and so forth, right? So orchestrating uh, all these data silos through a mine operations management will be very critical to have an efficient operations, right? And that also helps, that also leads us to meeting all the integration requirements in terms of the fleet management systems, the planning systems, the automation systems, and so on and so forth, right? So that we can get a single view, single source of truth for all the information that is generated on the mine site, right? So how do we drive this, right? Again, a quick view of what are the things that we can do, right? What are the use cases that we can solve or we can look at to implement to make this a very coherent and relevant operations for each and every mining company. Starting off with mine data management and demand management. How do you manage the demand? We talked about the fluctuation because of COVID, energy not being met, but then when it spikes up, how are you able to meet it, right? What are the systems, what are the things that you have in place to make sure that you meet those demands? And when it's low, what you can do, how you can optimize your demand to make sure that you are not implying or employing more resources, unnecessary resources, right? To be able to make those decisions, we need to have these systems in place, right? We need to have work order management, an easy and effective way to do material balances, stockpile management, logistics and shipment tracking. Again, a very critical important element depending on your customer orders. How do you ship, how do you make sure you load your rail wagons appropriately with the right quality of the coal, and so on and so forth, right? Machine performance, very critical. We need to to keep the uptime, high availability, we need to track it. We need to have an predictive let's say analytics engine to enable this, right? Time and labor, that means how do we ensure that the resources that are there, we make the best utilization with the workers, the supervisors, the entire hierarchy of the teams. How do we make sure we track them, we are able to get the best out of their work, right? So all of these are very important, let's say, use cases to solve across the mining value chain, right? Now, what are the benefits right? Very clearly, we're talking about increased confidence and data accuracy. Uh, we are not relying on things which are reported to us. We are relying on real data which is getting captured, right? We are talking about improvement in operations, manifold. We are talking about visibility into the operations. We are talking about freeing all the geologists and the engineers from, doing activities, NVAs, non-valuated activities that they are not supposed to do, right? Traceability, very important. Right from how we can do backward and forward traceability for any end product that we get out of these mines, right? And this entire ecosystem provides us a basis for continuous improvement, right? So I'll conclude here quickly that why is it that we have to focus now? Of course, we should have maybe done this earlier as well. We know that we need to get into these areas of automation to make sure, but now that this time when things are not happening, let's say on the business front, we can make best use of this time to really look at our house, set this in order, and make sure that we set a roadmap for a successful enterprise, mining enterprise in the years to come, right? So that is what is the opportunity that we should see collectively as industry, let's say, experts, to make sure that we get into these areas, improve our operations, and make sure we are ready for the post-COVID era, so to say, right? So with that, I would like to conclude here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Open to questions and answers here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Umrani. You have presented your very well, and you have made it clear that automation and this data analytics can do much for the operation of the mining, for increasing the productivity and operations, for operations management. You have presented in a very nice way, and how your organization or the consultancy can do support the mining industry. So
Certainly.
with this, let us start question answer session. Anyone who has a question, they may raise hand.
Sir, there is a question that has come. I would request Mr. Amit or Mr. Joydeep to answer that. How is that some of the coal monopolies in East Europe and BHP have added a series of downstream or upstream? Why not in India? Have you got my question? Hello? Hello? Yeah.
Ankita, please repeat the question.
Yeah, I'm repeating the question. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, the question is, how is that some of the coal monopolies in East Europe and BHP have added a series of downstream and upstream? Why not in India? This is the question. I would request Mr. Banerjee or Mr. Amit to answer.
Yeah, can you take the lead or please?
Yes, please, you can go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Series of the vertical and the upstream and the downstream movements in the Europe or whatever they have taken. Why not in India is a really big question. And so far the thing is that in India the coal reforming coal in Europe and Australia particularly, so whatever they have happened earlier in the commercialization in India, the coal till the May 2020, four times and so now the thing is that and the commercial mining was not allowed, it was only for the captive mining. So now the this is a migration period from one system to another, and I think it will take some more time to stabilize the thing, and then we can think of the other. Once the migration is done completely, then I think we can take the things into the next corridor.
Mr. Umrani, can you say something? Mr. Umrani?
No, I think I don't have anything to add here. I think the point is relevant. Yeah. So nothing to add from my side on this point.
Okay, there is another question for Mr. Rathod.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question that has come, it is that, what technologies are usable in this sector that can make the same acceptable under the Paris Agreement?
Actually, Paris Agreement is regarding reducing the greenhouse gases in reference to pre-industrialization period. So there was in that maximum 1.5 degrees Celsius increase was out. So for that we have to actually greenhouse gases we have to reduce, and for reduction we have to make, we go from our wind power and solar power are in the row. So we can convert coal into liquid. As I told that methanol plant is being planned in the Dankuni coal complex of Coal India, where 6.5 million ton annual production will be there, and it will need 1.5 million ton of coal. So that can be used in with petrol. 15 or 20% of methanol can be used with diesel and petrol for this, and this will reduce the greenhouse gases. Similarly, if we go to coal-bed methane, so from coal we produce methane, so it will again reduce the emission of gases, greenhouse gases, which are responsible for increasing the temperature, global temperature. So these are the way and coal industry and other mining industries should also think these greenhouse gases, and we have to abide by the Paris Conference. Those countries who have signed or who are the signatories of this COP, and they are doing, and ultimately for actually we want development, but we do not want development at the cost of humanity. What is happening, we are destroying forests, so there is conflict between human and animals. So several viruses may come unless if we continue deforestation and we started cutting forest and making bringing some projects. So greenhouse gases can be reduced, and we have to use this another way of converting this fossil like coal to gas, coal to liquid, and these are in the pipeline.
Yeah.
There is a question for Mr. Amit.
Yeah. Maybe can I add to this what Mr.
Yes,
Rathod
yes,
just
sure,
said?
sure.
I'd like to just extend this point. I think this, I think Mr. Rathod really touched upon the coal product or the business side of thing, right? That is, how do we make best use of, how do we make alternate use of coal and the outputs that we get out of it. But I would also want to touch upon how technology automation can address our let's say obligations for the Paris Accord, right? And that is by putting in all the necessary systems and processes. I mean, be it sensors or be it monitoring devices, etc., to make sure that we have incremental improvements in our, let's say, greenhouse gas emissions, or for that matter, the particulate matters, etc., right? So we should also look at, of course, bringing in new technology from a product standpoint, making alternate, having alternate processes to do that. But then it's also important to looking at our brownfield legacy that we have in this space. We should also enable them with technology, automation, etc., to make sure that we are tapping and ensuring the parameters are captured, there are no deviations, and we make those alarms and events available to the people who can take action on these things, right? So that we don't deviate too much from our targets. So that is an additional, let's say, angle to what Mr. Rathore just talked about.
Yeah, we
Yes.
have the question for you, Mr. Amit, only. That
Yes.
is your product available as SaaS, that is SaaS, SaaS? Also, the mine management system have a safety and hazard compliance module tailored to India.
Yes. So coming to the platform, it is available on IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service, right? Now there are certain elements of a solution which are available on SaaS as well, on the cloud. But again, depends on what, let's say, business process we want to address, right? So it depends on depends on the area that we want to focus, but it's a mix of both, let's say, cloud based as well as on premise, as well as IaaS, infrastructure as a service.
Okay, we don't have any more questions. So, well, then we can conclude the session. Well, I would like to thank yeah, sir, is there?
I think, Mr. Singh, I will just request you for a very brief wrap up before we finally conclude the session.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all panelists as well as delegates from different organizations. And this two-day session was very informative and very useful for all the participants as well as industries. And we, in the 2 days, we could learn many things which we were unaware of. And I am thankful to Indian Chamber of Commerce for providing this opportunity and organizing this 12th Coal Summit, India Coal Summit. And the proceedings certainly will be brought out by ICC, and this may be circulated to all, so that the recommendations which have come, which have the conclusions which have emerged will be useful to industry, and industry can adopt automation, as Mr. Umrani was telling, and like consultancy right from production planning to supply chain and end use, quality management, deviation management, feedback control, and as well as Mr. Jadip Banerjee was explaining what were the impacts of COVID on industry. So we have to ultimate aim. Our aim is to recover from the this COVID period and bring the economy in line and let go forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rathore, Mr. Banerjee, and Mr. Umrani for being with us. I would also like to thank all the attendees for attending this e-conference in the web mode. I would like to thank all our sponsors for being with us in these trying times. And I look forward to see you again in the next edition of the India Coal Summit, maybe next year, and probably not in the virtual platform, probably in the physical mode. Thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. You all stay safe. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.